A solar storm is coming, and that means northern lights are coming too. I'll tell you who has the best chance of seeing those. And mischief in the Caribbean could lead to tropical trouble down the road. Plus, severe weather is expected this weekend, bringing tornadoes, high winds, and large hail as a mesoscale convective system organizes and heads east. This is Cold Rain's Weather World. We've got all the weather, so sit back and happy haunting, folks, as we enter the second half of October. Welcome to the channel, friends. Jason here with you as always, covering the entire spectrum of weather across the lower 48, and we certainly have quite a few weather elements on that spectrum, including severe weather, and we cover things like solar storms, earthquakes, and volcanoes when they affect us. And right now we've got a solar storm inbound. I'm going to tell you all about that here in a minute, show you who's got the best chance of seeing those auroras. We're going to look at what's happening out in the tropics too, and check in on your weekend forecast. And I've got a weather IQ question. If you stick around, your weather knowledge will increase, I promise you. We're going to start here with severe weather this afternoon, looking at a small chance of isolated severe weather here from central Nebraska back into western Kansas. We're looking at wind, hail, possibly a tornado. We've got a low-level jet, and some of those thunderstorms might get strong enough and certainly experience some of that rotation through this area here. So watch out for that this afternoon. As we head on into tomorrow, the threat shifts east as a frontal boundary shifts east. We're looking from Kansas City down here into Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and potentially some high wind and hail with some of these storms, again, on an isolated basis, not looking at a big widespread event. Tornadoes don't look to be as much of a threat tomorrow, but then as we get on in towards Saturday, the lower Mississippi Valley, really from St. Louis back in toward Lufkin, Texas, down here up just northeast of Dallas, where you have the best chance all throughout Arkansas, and Shreveport and Monroe, Louisiana. Those are the areas where we have the best chances of seeing severe weather on Saturday, and it could be quite a little regional outbreak here. We're looking at supercells and potentially tornadoes with those before everything congeals into a mesoscale convective system. That's just an organized area of severe weather. It's going to push off to the east. We'll take a look at that, what that looks like on future radar in a minute, and then get on in toward the Tennessee Valley and then line out as it moves across, as the cold front moves into the portions of North Carolina on Sunday and in the rest of the southeast as well. So that's kind of the big picture view, but this is where we're looking for the biggest threat on Saturday, and we'll watch this evolve over the coming days. But just be aware, if you're in Arkansas, southern Missouri, and down here in northern Louisiana, back into northwest Texas, northeast Texas, and eastern Oklahoma, pay attention as we get on into the weekend, folks, and as particularly Saturday. And then east of there on Sunday, but the threat will be diminishing probably on Sunday. Here's what it looks like this afternoon, though. This is our future radar. Plenty of rain. There's a storm system back here in Wyoming. And kind of see that spin there as we go through the afternoon and evening hours, but we're going to see plenty of rain up here in the Dakotas and Montana, as well as some snow in the higher elevations back in Wyoming. But there are those thunderstorms getting their act together through the course of the evening back here in Nebraska, up into South Dakota, even back into the panhandle of Texas. Look for isolated severe thunderstorms this afternoon. Rain will begin to push into the Great Lakes region through the overnight hours. We'll wake up on Friday morning to rain up here in Michigan, a few showers back through Iowa into parts of Minnesota, northern North Dakota. Things will be winding down in the plains as we head through Saturday afternoon into the evening hours. We'll start to see that frontal boundary light up through just the southeastern tip of Iowa back in toward Kansas City, into Wichita, Kansas, and then back into Oklahoma too. That's where we'll find the isolated threat of severe weather. Michigan, you're going to see a line of rain move through, maybe a few rumbles of thunder as we head through the overnight hours. Another little trailing system is going to reinforce this front as we get on through the evening hours on Friday into the weekend. It's going to catch up and help to potentially spin up a secondary area of low pressure. So wake up to some rain from Michigan all the way back in through central Missouri and southeastern Kansas on Saturday morning. If we take a look here at how the moisture profiles of the atmosphere will look this afternoon, we've got some moderate dew points here, so working up in. We're looking at dew points in the 50s really through the central plains, but watch as we go on out through the day today and this afternoon. There is Friday. We start to get into the overnight hours tonight. We'll look at Friday morning. We've got a different orientation of this. As this front moves in this way, southerly winds out ahead of that are going to pull up moisture out of the Gulf, and we're going to see all of that moisture begin to coalesce along that frontal boundary. You can see that here pretty well in the dew point map as we get into the overnight hours Friday, and then wake up Saturday morning. And really Saturday's where you've got your biggest dew point values coming in out of the Gulf. So we've got rich moisture coming in down here in the lower Mississippi Valley, and that will converge with lift associated with that front, a few dynamics at play as well. That's where our biggest instability will be, but we'll still see instability up here through Michigan, although not quite as much. So we're not expecting as much severe weather on the northern end of that front. And then as we go on through Saturday into Saturday evening, wake up Sunday morning, and you can see those dew points pushing off to the east. Instability will be a little bit less, a little bit greater across the south, but we don't have as much in the way of dynamics to work on that instability. So the severe weather threat on Sunday, while not non-existent, it will be present along the East Coast, but it should be not nearly as great as it is on Saturday. And then everybody dries out as we get on into early next week. You can see that just a punch of dry air and then a reinforcing shot. It's going to feel like fall. Cool air is going to be associated with that too. I'll show you that here in just a second. Here is the front as it works into the area. Saturday morning, going to be waking up to some rain through the southern plains into the Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley, working in through the day on Saturday. And you can really see those thunderstorms start to break out Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, probably looking at 3, maybe 2, 3, 4 p.m., working through the evening hours. Low pressure begins to develop as that secondary area of energy kind of pushes in. And there it goes up into the Great Lakes, taking most of the dynamics up there. The front will swing through the southeast as we get into the morning hours on Sunday. And then in the afternoon and evening hours, that front will begin to push through North Carolina, up into Virginia, West Virginia, and even potentially the Europeans showing a secondary area of low pressure developing in as that second piece of energy kind of comes in behind the front up here in Pennsylvania and parts of the Ohio Valley. That front will just trail on through and wake up to probably no rain here in the upper southeast. The rain will be Monday morning as you head out the door up here in the Ohio Valley, spreading into the northeast. Could get a nice little rain event next week for the northeast. We'll take a look at just how much precipitation we can expect. But as we go through the weekend, the end of the week here, cool air pushing out of the northeast, warm air surging out of the plains ahead of that Friday and Saturday morning. And there comes that big push of cool air behind that low pressure in the front, working through the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, getting into the southeast to start next week. A surge of warm air behind that. Another push of very cool fall-like air coming in behind that. Could have a very nice shot of fall here in the southeast, Ohio Valley, and eventually spreading into the northeast as we work through the middle part of next week. And then a reinforcing shot on the euro of that before more warm air works back in as we get on out to about 10 days. So we're looking at toward next weekend. Next weekend could be very, very nice here in the southeast and much of the east, really. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later as we get on through the weekend and early next week in terms of seeing how things shake out 10 days from now, because you know the weather's variable. Right now I've got your weather IQ question coming up, and then we'll take a look at some temperatures and how they'll play out over the course of the weekend. Take a look at that 6-10 day, and then look at the tropics and see what's going on out there. Today's weather IQ question is about pressure. What do you know about pressure? Well, if you don't know about pressure, you're going to by the end of the show, because I will tell you the answer then. But right now, I'm going to tell you the question, or ask you the question, rather. And here it is. A falling barometer usually indicates which of the following: clearing skies, an approaching storm, rising temps, or high pressure. You can probably eliminate one of those answers right out of the gate. That leaves you a 33.33333% chance of getting the answer right. Everyone you lop off, see, your percentages go up. See how that works? So if you need to phone a friend, go ahead. In the meantime, don't call anybody until you hear the temperature forecast for the weekend, because I've got that coming right up. As you know, folks, the weather is variable this time of year, and we're going to see a variety of weather, and it's going to change quickly, and that's why you subscribe to this channel. So if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button right down below, give the content a like, and certainly leave a comment. If there's anything I can be in prayer about, put it in the comment section. I want to encourage you and lift you up, and so I really appreciate all the support here from me, and I want to support you in the same way. If you have any questions, if you want to ask me anything at all, put it in the comments. I read all of those every single day, and I'm happy to respond to those those two. Right now, we're going to look at temperatures, and this afternoon, we're going to see temperatures surging into the plains into the 70s, making their way all the way up into the Dakotas and Minnesota, 90s across the south, and pretty humid down here as well. Into Florida, we're looking at 80s. Cool across the north, highs in the 40s, and down into the southeast, we're looking at highs in the 60s. A very pleasant fall day. Pleasant out west with the Rocky Mountains, the only spot that are in the freezing or below category, and everybody else looking pretty good, warm in the San Joaquin Valley today. Tomorrow, much the same story. Things don't shake up a whole lot. We get on in towards Saturday, and you can see a cool punch coming in behind that cold front and bringing 50s to a larger area up here in the northern tier. Warming up out west, though, as a new storm system is getting ready to push into the northwest, cooling us off out there. Warmth out ahead of that with southerly flow warming us back up here in the western sections of the central plains, and then cooler air squashes that ridge all the way to the south, at least marginally cooler air. We're looking at highs in the 60s across much of the Tennessee Valley up into the northeast, with 70s and 80s squashed further south as we get on into Sunday. Taking a look at lows over the next couple of days, freeze watches are in place in areas of Pennsylvania and interior sections of the northeast, where temperatures are going to be below freezing come Friday morning, tomorrow morning. So watch out for that. 40s, maybe even some 30s down here into the sections, portions of the low-lying sections in the Piedmont areas, even into the mountains here. We're looking at that in North Carolina. Cool temperatures back out west, warm in the plains still. Same regime tomorrow, just a little bit warmer here in the southeast, cool in the northern plains and the Rockies as well. That will continue to spill east as we go through Sunday, and that warm air ahead of that front will surge from the south and warm us back up into the Ohio Valley and the southeast as well, keeping it cool in the northeast. And that's the temperature profile the next couple of days. So we take a look at probabilities of precipitation through the weekend. Saturday, through the day, so this is ending at 8 p.m. on Saturday, we're looking at pretty high probabilities all the way up here from the Great Lakes area back into the mid-Mississippi Valley. Few scattered showers not out of the question here between South Dakota and Nebraska back into Wyoming, and a new storm system pushing into the west will increase probabilities out there. As we go through Saturday night, those probabilities really shoot up. We're looking at a high probability of rain here in the northwest, and of course through the Mississippi Valley up into the Great Lakes as well Saturday night. As we get on in toward Sunday, through 8 p.m. on Sunday, again looking at high probabilities here in the southeast, basically the western portions of the southeast, east of the Mississippi River, and up into the Great Lakes again. So we're going to see that rain move east slowly as we get on in through the weekend, and another system bringing rain and then snow to the higher elevations out west as well as we get toward the end of the weekend. Total rainfall amounts, you can see where the biggest area of rain is going to be. Widespread 1 inch plus rainfall up here from Lake Michigan into Lake Huron and back into Lake Erie, and points in between all of that, triangulating there. And then back here in eastern Montana and western North Dakota, looking at 1 inch or more potentially here as well, and also up here in the Cascades and the Olympics of Washington State, looking at rain, but plenty of rain back here through the Tennessee Valley and the lower Mississippi Valley too. Lighter amounts everywhere else, but you guys are going to get in on the action as we move into the early part of the week up here in the interior northeast and up into the New England area. So watch out for that as we get on into the early work week, and then snow possible out here in the Glacier National Park area all the way back into Wyoming is what I'm trying to say, and the mountains of Colorado, Utah, back into Nevada, and up into the Cascades as well, looking for some snow as we head through the weekend, folks. These are, by the way, those rainfall totals and snowfall totals are through 12 a.m. Monday morning from today. So that's what we've got to look at there. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook is going to be predominantly warm in the nation's midsection, and then cooler with those cool shots will average out to be cooler over this time period here in the southeast and over in the west as well. Alaska mixed, Hawaii above normal, precipitation, several little pockets of above normal here from the west to the south and back into the northeast, and then below in the northern plains, below down here toward Florida, and then above in Alaska and Hawaii. And that is your weekend forecast, 6 to 10 day outlook. Take things out down to the south and to the east. Take a look at those tropics right now. We're going to start the tropical update with the European operational run. Of course, we don't take operational runs at face value in the tropics beyond a few days out, but we're looking at 7 days out here just to give you an idea of what could happen and what we're potentially going to see in the Caribbean at least. We've got a low pressure developing out here already at day 7. As we run this along, you can see that European has its idea of just sort of spinning this around, slowly developing it in the tropics. We get on out here toward 360 hours. That is Friday, October the 31st. It starts to bring it up out of the Caribbean and on a northerly track through Cuba and Haiti, and look at this, straight toward the United States. But we've got a big frontal zone coming off the United States. We're going to have a parade of storms coming out of Canada and moving to the east across the United States over the next 2 weeks. Any one of those will knock any tropical system out to sea. So that's what the European's kind of showing here. The GFS actually keeps this thing over in the Eastern Caribbean and then eventually runs it out in the North Atlantic, okay, before the European does. This is the European ensemble suite. And you can see all these numbers down in the Caribbean. These are all the different ensemble members, the numbers of those members that show tropical development. The brighter the yellows and oranges, the stronger they see the storm getting as we go on out in time. And look what happens. We're out here at 7 days out, October the 23rd. We move this on out ahead, and you can see some of those members starting to get a little bit stronger. The pressure is generally getting into yellow, which means things are starting to get a little stronger out here. And then some of those members go into Central America. Others kind of come out here through Cuba and Haiti and the DR. A couple of them go into Florida, but most of them stay off the United States. And eventually, as we get on out here toward the end of the run, most of them have ejected into the North Atlantic or either gone down here and washed out over Central America. So European ensemble is not all that threatening as well. The Google DeepMind, pretty much the same story. Of course, it doesn't have nearly as many members developing something, but the ones that do kind of keep it in the Caribbean, eventually send it out to sea or kill it off in Central America. The bottom line is we've got a long time to watch what's going on down here. People in the with interest in the Caribbean, if you live in Cuba, Haiti, the DR, into Puerto Rico, you need to really pay close attention to this and prepare in about 7 to 10 days for some heavy weather, squally rain, squally weather, rains, strong winds, and start thinking about your preparations because this thing is going to be slow moving, it looks like, and it could develop slowly over the course of that period of time and send lots of rain into the same areas over and over, even down here in Venezuela and Colombia and across Central America. You need to pay attention to this too, of course. And so we'll watch it in the United States over the next couple of days, but really I'm not seeing a big threat to the U.S., which is good news at this time. We'll keep our eyes on it as we go on out in time. In the meantime, we've got to keep our eyes upstairs because a solar storm is coming, and some of us are going to see northern lights most likely, and hopefully not experience any power or outages of any type. We are green across the board on the KP with only a few solar flares indicated on the flux chart, but we've got a big coronal hole turning toward us, and we've got 2 CMEs that were ejected from the sun, and we're going to experience the solar wind from those. That happened a few days ago. That solar wind is coming here now, and it's going to put us in geomagnetic storm conditions. G2 conditions are expected. That is moderate, so that's going to mean that we'll have to watch for some minor effects on power grids, internet, things like that. Hopefully not anything too major, but something to keep a watch on. There's a coronal hole that's turning toward us, and we'll see the enhanced solar wind from that impact us over the next in a couple of days, and a few snaps from some of these sunspots indicating some potential solar flaring activity. Look here on the coronagraph, though. Watch here up in the right here in the right side. Look at that. Boom! Big coronal mass ejection came off with a solar flare. So that happens all the time here on the sun. Sometimes they point at us. This one pointed away from us for the most part, thank goodness, because that would just exacerbate our problems. But look here. Here is the aurora viewing forecast, and certainly we're going to see a high chance of aurora production over the next 24 hours. This is tonight's map, and look here. This line is the view line, potentially, and it comes all the way into the Iowa area, back through the Great Lakes in the northeast and the northwest as well. So anybody in this area with clearer skies should be able to see aurora later this evening. It's going to be cloudy up here in the northern plains, so maybe you all won't be able to see it this time, and potentially up here in the northeast and the northwest, maybe a little bit better in the way of viewing. But that looks like the best potential above this line here in the northern portion of the United States. Moon pollution, light pollution from the moon rather, shouldn't be too big of a problem. 22.6% waning crescent headed down to full or new moon phase on October the 21st. The next full moon is November the 5th. And there you have it, folks. We get now to the answer to today's weather IQ question. A falling barometer usually indicates which of the following: clearing skies, approaching storm, rising temps, or high pressure. Falling barometer means falling pressure, so you could scratch high pressure right off the list. And a falling barometer is usually associated with an approaching storm. Low pressure, falling barometer, low pressure, right? So that's how that works. And so as that pressure starts to drop, as that storm moves in, you would expect to see a falling barometer. Therefore, unsettled conditions will be coming soon. And that's weather in a nutshell, folks, in terms of pressure and how that works. Also, way back in 1962, on this day, President John F. Kennedy was informed that U.S. spy planes had discovered Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, sparking the Cuban Missile Crisis, one of the tensest standoffs of the Cold War. Now you know history, now you know the weather. And that's all I've got for you today, folks. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll be back tomorrow with a full episode of Cold Rain's Weather World. I have another IQ question for you. As always, have a wonderful afternoon. God bless. We'll see you back tomorrow.